Welcome back to episode 106 of the ATD Baseball Podcast. Juan Soto has a new home. It's over. And I'm sorry, Kyle, it is not with the New York Yankees. It is with the other team across town, the New York Metropolitans, or the New York Mets. Um, Listen, Kyle has had pretty much 24 hours to dissect, to reflect. I don't think he's going to come in here and be like Yankee fans on Twitter and, completely drive to City Field and completely cuss them out over the phone. I don't think that's going to happen. But um, Juan Soto is now the richest man in sports, pretty much.
Yeah.
Um, we will get into everything that we have because we both have a lot of thoughts on this and everything else. But before, I need to know, Kyle, how are you feeling 24 hours after Juan Soto made his decision?
Yeah, so we've obviously, Juan Soto's been the talk of the offseason here. Like, this isn't something new. This isn't a shock to most people. This is whatever. Like, that's the way I'm taking it. Immediate reaction when the news dropped and I saw the John Heyman tweet. Obviously, we were all in the group chat talking, whatever. I was more disappointed. I expected him to go to the Mets. That's where my prediction was. I think all three of
That's what
us.
we all said. We all said Mets.
Yeah,
I
yeah, all
said
three
Mets
of us.
last year in March.
That you did. Yeah, I was there for that. Um,
Yes. I was walking around Yankees spring training. I'm like, he's going to leave in a year, right? He's not staying here. You understand that, right?
yeah,
Anyways, continue.
yeah. So immediate reaction. I was disappointed. I expected it. And I'll start off by saying, good for Mets fans. They deserve it. They've been through a hell of a lot of shit over the last, I don't know, 30, 40 years. So I get it.
OMG.
Yes, they're looking good. Um, However, 24 hours later, I feel much better than what I thought I would. Losing out on Soto is huge, man. Like that's you. He's almost irreplaceable. Um, but as of right now, I feel okay. I'm taking a positive route to it, and I'm looking all day, dude. I spent because I knew we were recording this, so all day long I'm sitting there at my desk at work, and I'm thinking to myself, what can we do? What can the Yankees do to salvage this offseason and put a plan B in place? And I think I got one. So I'll get into that a little bit later. But to answer your question here, I'm doing okay. I much better than what I thought. I'm not great, but I'm not bad. I'm right in the middle. I'm right in the sweet spot there. Um, so a lot better than what I thought. How about you, man?
Doing good. I'm doing good. Like I said, I mentioned it to you before we started press to record. We started hearing about maybe 5:30 your time, maybe a little later than that. About maybe 6:30 your time, 3:30, 4 o'clock my time. We were hearing reports not just from one person. We were hearing from multiple people that hey, it looks like a decision's going to happen today or tonight. And right away, Twitter does its usual thing. Everybody starts freaking out. Everybody starts panicking, like, "Oh my god, this is finally going to be over with."
Yeah.
Not gonna lie to you, I was kind of nervous. And listen, I never thought that Juan Soto was going to be a Dodger. Never. I never thought the Dodgers were going to get to that number, and I just didn't think he was interested in coming out here. I didn't. I understand that he was in San Diego for 2 years. I think that's what it was, but I never thought that the Dodgers were going to make a serious enough offer to at least have Soto and Boris look at each other and like, well, maybe the Dodgers are kind of serious here. But um, I was nervous. I was nervous for you. I was nervous for Met fans. Like I was nervous for a lot of people because, and we'll get into this, right now, um, in a quick moment. But I had told you, and my final prediction was not the Mets. I told everybody last night I thought it was going to be the Yankees because, um, listen, I told everybody yesterday, and you can find it. It's in the it's in the post somewhere. One of the posts that we posted yesterday. I honestly thought up until last night if he wanted to be a New York Met, he would have signed already.
Yeah.
I thought maybe at the last moment he had a heart to heart and he changed his mind. You know what? I enjoyed the 1 year with the Yankees. I want to be here for the rest of my career. I'm going with them. Didn't happen, obviously, but to answer your question, I'm glad it's over because now we can dissect and we can really start this free agency process because a lot of people were waiting on Juan Soto and Scott Boras to get this thing over with, and a lot of teams were waiting for the decision. So um, now you're going to start seeing crazy moves and trades happening because of this. But I'm doing good. Dodgers kind of had a quiet week. I'm a little nervous. I'll get into why I'm nervous later. But for right now, this is Juan Soto talk. So let's not waste any more time. Kyle, you have the floor. What is your plan B? Because this is not my team. This is your, well, not your guy anymore, but um, now, plan B for the Yankees. The floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, so I'll kind of dissect what you said there for a little bit, and then I'll get into my plan B. Um, yeah, I honestly down at the wire there, I had a gut feeling that he was coming back. Um, and what really like solidified this whole thing for me, and why I feel Soto went this way versus that way, he was looking for the most money he could possibly grab out of anybody. That's what he was doing. His mission, he didn't give a shit where he was playing. I can guarantee you if the Oakland Athletics, or I'm sorry, the Sacramento Athletics would have came in with an $850 million offer, he'd be an A right now. Um, so Steve Cohen came up and did what, you know, we always thought he could, which is made him the richest player in sports history. If he wanted to come back, the 5 million wouldn't have been that big of a deal. That's the way I look at it. Um, so now, my biggest thing is it really shows that there's no amount of loyalty in this game. It's these contracts are only going to get higher and higher. I think Soto and Otani are in a league of their own. Um, and I don't think we're going to be seeing $700 million contracts left and right, but I do think
No.
we are going to get in the 400s, the 500s. Like that's not going to be a uh, a shock anymore. So yeah, I mean it obviously sucks, but I want Yankee fans to know. Yeah, Judge has his things in the postseason, whatever. Maybe he'll come around at some point, but appreciate that man. Please do. Judge wanted to be a Yankee, and that's exactly what happened. He came back. He took less money to be a Yankee, damn near $50 million less money to be a Yankee. So I want to put that out there before getting into my plan B here. So yeah, I mean, obviously I'm disappointed, but I'm in the mindset where it's like, okay, bam, I want to look at what we can do here. So,
Pete
cuz you
Alonso.
absolutely not. You need to salvage this offseason, right? And Hal Steinbrenner showed his cards, man. He's got $760 million that he was willing to spend. So, if we're going off of that, I'm not saying Hal Steinbrenner needs to go out and spend $800 million this offseason. There's a few moves here that he can't like if you got to overpay, you got to make it happen. That's just the way that's the kind of boat that you find yourself in. So, my plan B, um I'll start off with some smaller ones. Address the bullpen, please. Whether that's I just have relievers as a category on my list here. Um, Go out there and get some of these guys, man. Because you need to address that. That was a big problem in the postseason, and I mean, we obviously lost to the Dodgers in the World Series, and a big part of that was the bullpen. You know, I did not feel comfortable once with any of those guys coming out of the bullpen. Tim Hill was my most comfortable reliever. That shouldn't be a thing. So, so that's number one. You got to
Who?
address that
No, I'm just
bullpen.
kidding.
Pretty much, you got to address that bullpen. Next is I want Christian Walker for first base.
Okay.
It's pretty obvious that Rizzo and Glaber are not coming back. The Yankees aren't even pursuing them, so that's two holes there that you got to fill. Um, so I want Christian Walker. I think he brings power, and I think he's pretty damn good over there on defense. I mean, it doesn't take much. So you shove Christian Walker in there, and I think that's a fine replacement. And it gives you the power as well as not great average, but it's okay. It's doable. But the biggest thing for me is Christian Walker provides that power, and we've seen that in Arizona over all these years. Uh, Next one, I want Corbin Burns, right? So obviously, there's a lot of talk about the Yankees going after Max Fried. I like Max Fried, I do, but you're missing out on Juan Soto here. And if you got a guy like Corbin Burns on the market, and you compare him with Garrett Cole in that rotation, I think that's a it's a damn good one too. And it solidifies that rotation just a little bit more. And you have the money to spend, so go get Corbin Burns. Um, my last two are trades. So number one, I want Alec Bohm. You can then have Jazz Chisholm either go into second base, or you can use him as a utility piece wherever you need, and he can play the outfield if need be. Um, so that's the thing, and he was an all star, and I think he's an emerging star in this league. And I think the biggest reason why he is on the trade block, I feel like there's internal issues with Philadelphia's front office and the coaching staff with Alec Bohm. And obviously they're button heads. We've seen reports of it. He was benched a few times.
He got benched in
So
a postseason game.
that's what I'm saying. And this is a guy who his bat should not be benched. He's a guy who should be an everyday player. So I want Alec Bohm on this Yankee team next year. And my last piece here that I think is pretty much not a complete replacement for Juan Soto, because like I said earlier, Juan Soto's in a league of his own. Um, I want Kyle Tucker from the Astros. And there was just a report right before we started recording, actually, that the Astros are open to trading Kyle Tucker. And I believe it was Framber Valdez. Now, these are two big trades, Bowman, Tucker. The Yankees have the farm system to do it, but I feel like they'd be unloading it, which I'm totally fine with. At this point, you need to do whatever you can to make this team competitive. Because looking at that lineup 1 through 9 right now, it is not that great. I mean, it's not bad, but it's like average, man. Losing Soto out of there, you now have Judge. And then you got to hope that Stanton can take that postseason success and put it into the regular season again. You know, and you depleted a lot of that farm system when you traded for Juan Soto last year. So you didn't get the job done, but you need to move on. You still have pieces in this farm system that are movable. And I feel Jason Dominguez, Spencer Jones, these type of Chase Hampton, these type of prospects can be moved for Tucker and Bohm. Obviously, you're gonna have to add a few more pieces in there. I know Nestor Cortez is on a pretty good deal where you can move him. Marcus Stroman too. You didn't use him once in the postseason. You obviously don't have that much faith in him. And I just feel that that's a contract that's more team friendly, and you're getting Marcus Stroman, who's a veteran pitcher, and you can shove him in a pitching staff that he could be, I don't know, anywhere between a 2 to a 4. And I think it's a good piece to go off of. So that is my plan for the Yankees offseason. Address the bullpen, go get Christian Walker, go get Corbin Burns, and trade for Alec Bohm and Kyle Tucker. It's obviously going to take a lot, but I feel that Brian Cashman and Hal Steinbrenner can do this. That's the way I look at it, and that's the way that I will go into 2025, looking at this team as a competitive team. Not saying that they're going to get back to the World Series or they're going to have the easiest path in the world, but I would feel a whole lot better having Kyle Tucker there as that other superstar to complement Aaron Judge. Obviously, Teoscar Hernandez is also a piece that's on the free agent market. However, I don't see that happening. I wouldn't be mad at it at all. But at the end of the day, I feel he's going back to LA. It's just a matter of when they figure out the money situation, the years, whatever the holdup is, he's going back to LA. So for me, you need to pivot and you need to go get the big fish. And for me, that's Kyle Tucker. That's where I'm at with the Yankees. Yeah, I'll feel good if that's what we're going into opening day with next year.
Okay, Kyle just laid out his plan B. Now let me give my reaction to this Soto stuff. Um, I thought about this morning and last night. Juan Soto is the blueprint of what Scott Boras wants his clients to do. I don't know how much longer Scott Boras has left in this business, but what Juan Soto was able to do for the last couple seasons, Scott Boras should have this all written down and put on film, and every client of Scott Boras should watch and study and learn this system. Don't sign any extensions. Don't don't show your card to the team that you're currently with. Remember, the Yankees had lost a heartbreaking World Series, and Juan Soto did not do the Yankees any favors. 5 minutes after the game was over, he said, "No, the Yankees don't have any leverage whatsoever. Every team is available. Every team is open for business." Um, I know this is probably not the angle people are going to take, but Juan Soto bet on himself and he won. And I think that should be recognized and I think that should be celebrated a little bit. He said no to 440 from the Washington Nationals a long time ago. And what did he do? He was able to get an extra 300 plus $1 million, and he is now the highest paid player in the sport and the highest paid athlete of all time. A lot of athletes would have taken that 440 and said, "Hey, you know what? Who knows if I'll ever get a contract like this, or who knows, where my situation will be in a couple of years. I'm taking this." Not Juan Soto. Um, this was it was going to be a big letdown if the Mets did not get Juan Soto. This was everything that has happened to this Mets team, and from the time that Steve Cohen took over as owner of the Mets, Met fans were waiting for a day like yesterday to flex his money and go get the big fish. Everything that they couldn't do in the last couple off seasons now makes sense. You know, they didn't they Otani wasn't going to the East Coast, I understand that. But the Mets didn't even try to get a meeting with him. Yamamoto, they tried Yamamoto, but they never blew him away and gave him a Godfather offer. All these things, didn't really spend that much. Like I said, they were nickel and diming with a lot of their roster because they wanted to get their money and straight in order for Juan Soto this year, and they did just that. So, and you heard the reports. I don't know if you've heard it, but according to David Stearns, he had a meeting with him last weekend, and he came out of that meeting saying, "We have no shot to get this guy. He's going back to the Yankees, or he's going to be in Boston." Steve Cohen stepped in and said, "No, I this is the guy I want. Whatever the price is, I don't care." And you can't fault Hal Steinbrenner for this.
No.
Listen, the Yankees, and they made it clear too an hour ago, because now all the GMs and the managers are talking. They went way out of their comfort zone for Juan Soto. I think at the beginning of this offseason and throughout the season, I don't think the Yankees wanted to go over 550. And they were out on the deep end in the middle of nowhere on a little tiny boat, and listen, it made sense why the Yankees had to tap out. And Scott Boras did go back to the Yankees and said, "Hey, 765 for 15 years. You have the opportunity to match it." And the Yankees said no, because they understood that Steve Cohen was going to go even higher if he had to. He was not going to be outbid. And I've heard this from Yankee fans today. Well, this would never happen under George Steinbrenner. Oh, hold on a second. George Steinbrenner did not have to deal with the Guggenheim Group, or he didn't have to deal with Steve Cohen. You want to know why? Because he was Steve Cohen. The game has changed, man. It's not like it was 40, 50 years ago. 40 years ago, George Steinbrenner was Steve Cohen. He was the one flexing his power and flexing his money and saying, hey, I don't care what it takes, how much it costs, go get me the best players possible. Game has changed. The game has changed. So for all these Yankee fans that are out there saying, well, this would never happen under George, how do you know that?
Yeah.
How do you know that? And he was the number one, owner back then and said, hey, I don't care what it costs. I want to win. Who cares? Just get me the best players possible. So that argument is flawed. Um, if you're a smart Yankee fan like Kyle, there should be a plan B. And I think the Yankees have a plan B. There better be a plan B because you don't want to screw up like how you did it, how you screwed up 10 years ago with Cano. Completely botched that. Completely botched it. And you had to settle for Jacoby Ellsbury. We know how that planned out.
Yep.
So, Met fans, it seems like this was not a matter of if, but a matter of when. Good for the Mets. Good for the Mets. You still got to go through my team. I'll say that. And before, Met fans punch their ticket to the NLCS again, you still got some holes to fill, man. What's going to happen with Pete Alonso? I'm not in love with this rotation. I'm not. I'm really not. Like, there's, is Mark Vientos going to continue to be on that surge again? We don't know that. We don't know. So there's so many questions here still with this Mets team. But for right now, you got the big fish, you got the big prize, and that should be celebrated. So, if you're a Yankee fan, I'm gonna ask Kyle straight up: was it worth it? Was it worth it for 1 year? Would you do that trade again? Would you do it again? Remember, you had to give up Michael King, Kyle Hidashioka, Drew Thorpe, and two other prospects for Juan Soto for 1 year, and he got you to the World Series for the first time in 15 years. Would you do that again?
I think I would. And I'll tell you why. The main reason why I would do this trade again. The Yankees made it back to the World Series, and I remember when they traded for Juan Soto, every Yankee fan got that just energy back in them and sucked every Yankee fan into it again. Every Yankee fan. And the amount of revenue that they generated off of Juan Soto alone in 1 year, I think is kind of what propelled them to being able to say, you know what? We can spend this kind of money. We got the revenue and we're putting a winning product on the field. And I don't think the pieces that we gave up were all that terrible because the only one that is truly panned out that I would want back is Michael King. And when it comes down to it, the other guys Kyle Higashioka is out of San Diego now. Drew Thorpe is out of San Diego. Yeah, they got Dylan Cease out of it, but Drew Thorpe's out of there. And he struggled in Chicago last year. And then Randy Vasquez and Johnny Brito,
Yeah.
they really haven't. They've been relievers. They've been starters. They don't have a place in San Diego. So when it comes down to it, I think I would. It was a lot of fun watching this Yankee team this past year, man. I had so much fun watching this team. Although we missed out on the big prize, I had fun, man. And I had made a post when the Yankees made it back to the World Series. I felt like a kid again, man. And sometimes those feelings you just can't put a price tag on, and you can't really mock up trades based on feelings. So I would do it again, and yeah, it also it adds to the excitement, man. Soto's gone now. Now I'm excited. I'm excited for a different reason, but I want to see how this team responds. There are names out there there's tweets that are coming out as we're speaking in the middle of this live that the Astros are receiving trade inquiries on Kyle Tucker. The Yankees might be one of them. Who knows? Maybe we see Kyle Tucker on the move. You know, it just it creates more excitement and it draws you in as a fan. So at the end of the day, yeah, I think I'd do it again. Um, and also too, before we move on, I have one last little thing to go off of. Um, More of the reason why this, Mets fans, be excited. But like Melo said, there are still holes on this team. And for Soto, I found this in an article. I don't exactly remember where. I believe it was the New York Post. So I want to try to give credit to where it's due. Um, the Yankees gave themselves a list of kind of like things to talk to Soto about and try to motivate him to get back here and persuade him. Um, they outdraw the Mets at the gate. So and it kind of goes into the next point, they have more fans around the country than the Mets. The Yankee brand is there. I don't care what anybody says, however much you want to hate on the Yankees, the Dodgers, these big teams that are, the evil teams of baseball, if you want to say. That's what it comes down to. The Yankees and the Dodgers, I'm going to use the Dodgers because I think the Dodgers are a damn good example to use as well. These are now brands. They're not just teams, sports teams. You see that classic NY logo no matter what, and people might just use it for fashion. When it comes down to it, the Yankees are a bigger brand than the Mets. And the whole like little brother thing, it's just the Mets, whatever it is. Yeah, I'm guilty of it. I say it all the time. But I think there's a thing to that. And I don't want to discourage Mets fans or anybody. I'm glad that the Mets are finally back on the map. It's cool. It's nice to see both New York teams being competitive. That's what I'm going to put it as. But when it does come down to it, the Yankees are just more popular. They generate more. They are a bigger name. The history, whatever it is, I'm just stating facts. It's not just me being a biased Yankee fan. That's what it comes down to. Um, And then, like I said, they generate more revenue than the Mets, so that's something else. They have a ballpark that's built for Soto. Soto hit a career high 41 homers last year, and he's a lefty at Yankee Stadium. You're gonna play 81 games at Yankee Stadium. You got that short porch out there. Kyle Tucker, keep that in mind. Um, Next thing, they'll have an easier path to the World Series. That's what is the big thing. That's why we play this game. The Mets still need to, you mentioned it, the Mets still need to go through the Dodgers. But also, too, we tend to forget
No division.
we're sweeping Atlanta under the under the rug here. We forget that they were so injury riddled last year. They're going to be healthy going into next season. And they got the reigning Cy Young on the top of that list. And then they have a 2-year removed MVP. And you got a supporting cast there that's just, we talk about the Braves all the time. They put a damn good team together each and every year. It just so happened that they were injured last year. And I still think Philly too, man. Yeah, like Bohm might be gone, whatever it is, you're losing a bat there. But Philly is still not a team to just sweep under the rug. And not to mention, the Nationals are going to be good. Don't know when, but they're going to be. They're building a culture down there. And they have a young core of guys who are very good. Um, so yeah, the Yankees have that easier path. So that's another reason. Um, and I'm gonna leave it on this because this is my last point here. Look who you were hitting in front of. Aaron Judge. You got a guy there who is penciled in for 60 homers a year if he wants to. This guy's unreal. He's hitting for average. I'll go into a whole spiel if I continue here. But you're now going from hitting in front of Aaron Judge, so you're going to get less pitches to hit over in Queens. You got, as of right now, the projected lineups have him hitting in front of Mark Vientos, which you had mentioned earlier. I love Mark Vientos. I think he has a potential to be a superstar in this league. I love what I saw out of him in the postseason and all of regular season. He's blossoming into a star in baseball. Um, but there's no guarantee he's going to do it. He could have a sophomore slump. It could be this whole thing. And then you got more question marks down that lineup, too. Pete Alonso's out of there. So you're losing power. Starling Marte didn't hit all that great last year. Francisco Alvarez, it seems like we've been waiting forever for him to pop off and turn into a star. I'm not saying he's not a good player because I think he is, and I think he has a boatload of potential. But this team is surrounded by a bunch of 1 year contracts that they did last year. So a lot of the Jose Iglesias, Harrison Bader, just to name a few, they're out of there. Luis Severino, he's over in Sacramento now. So you are missing some pieces of this lineup, and that just makes me think that this was more about just the check for Soto, and I think that's what it comes down to. He's already got his ring. I don't know if he's going for personal, you know, contributions here, if he wants the awards, if he wants to be remembered, because he has the potential to go down as the greatest Met of all time. He does. But I'm gonna play into the whole Yankees thing again. Which history is more historic? I mean, would I guess his number being retired in Monument Park didn't really mean too much, and I'm sure that the Yankees, you know, told him all of this. I'm sure it was all part of negotiations, everything else. But at the end of the day, it was the check. That's what that's what meant the most to him, and that's what happened. So good for the Mets, good for the Mets fans, and good for Soto. He bet on himself and he won. Um, for me personally, it sucks seeing a player be that greedy, because that's what it kind of like it screams greed all over it. But hey, if that's what he's happy with, so be it. Have fun. Um, you are now public enemy number one in the Bronx. I'll tell you that, with all that shit going on. But yeah, no, good for him, good for the Mets, and good for Mets fans.
Yeah, that's the thing that has to sting, and I can hear it at the end here with Kyle. Every day when Aaron Judge and Juan Soto took the field last year, Aaron Judge was looking at Monument Park and saying, "Man, I'm gonna be there one day. I
Yeah,
want to be there one day." Juan Soto was like, "Yeah, that's cool, I guess. Where's the check? How much?
yeah,
How much?"
that's it, exactly.
That's got to sting. That's got to sting.
Yeah,
Listen, for some people, and I think and that's the thing that is, um, Yankee fans are having a hard time. It's like for some of these guys, it's not about legacy. It's about the check, man. It's about the money.
yep,
Which I know some people probably don't like that and don't agree with it, but some guys don't care about that. It was clear. Juan Soto didn't care about Monument Park. Didn't care about his name being chanted from the bleacher creatures in right field. Didn't care about that. Didn't matter. I'll stay here, but for the right price.
yep.
If not, hey, I'm going to the highest bidder. And the Mets were able to do that. So
Yeah,
it
that
sucks if you're a Yankee fan, but I mean, hey, like not everybody's interested or intrigued by the history. Some guys aren't. Some guys just aren't, and it sucks. But I guess
no,
that's what separates athletes from fans. I
yeah,
guess
no, 100%. At the end of the day, and I feel like a lot of Yankee fans are having a tough time with this. I
I
mean,
think it's
it is a
cope,
bit.
as they say, as the kids say this day.
That is true. I'm too old for that shit. But when it comes down to it, it is a business. And as fans, we need to remember that. Not everybody's going to be like an Aaron Judge who wants to come to a place and take less money to stay in New York and wants to have his number retired and wants to be in Monument Park. He he solidified the whole captain thing. Like he plays that role very well. And to some guys that doesn't mean shit to them. And that's exactly what happened here. Um so yeah, I mean, it sucks. Would I have loved Soto back? Of course I would. I wanted him to be a Yankee for the rest of his career, but that is not the case. The Yankees need to pivot, and that's what it comes down to. So to put a bow on things from me, um, Mets fans enjoy it because you're going to need to enjoy that first couple of years. Because after that, he's going to be your DH. And, I've also been hearing rumblings. I'm going to leave it at this because I just think it's funny. that Juan Soto's age is not what it actually is or what it's said to be. So obviously, from public eye, he's 26. But I've been seeing on Twitter that he's like 29, 30. I don't know. Hey, that's a conversation for another time. But yeah, good for Soto. He bet on himself and he got what he wanted.
Oh, Kyle
And
digging
yeah,
into the conspiracy theories now. Wow, all
oh
right.
yeah, let's do it a little bit. And last thing, fuck Soto. That's what it is, and that's where I'm gonna leave it.
One last thing. We haven't addressed the elephant in the room here. Is Juan Soto worth $765 million?
I'll give you my answer. I think he is for the first couple years of that contract. And then, Jeff Passan came out and said that, some of the Yankees front office is kind of relieved that it happened this way because 15 years is a long time, man. And we see how these contracts are ending up. And they're going to be paying, well, age going into it now, they're going to be paying a 39, 40-year-old Juan Soto buku's money, man. 50 million. 50 million a year for a DH. It kind of reminds me of a whole Stanton thing. But yeah, I mean, we'll see where it goes. It's so hard to say that if it's so hard to say like is it worth it or not. Like I can't give you like a 100% answer just because it's like yeah, it's worth it to an extent, but also too like that was the price. If you wanted those good years of Soto, you needed to go to that price. This is what we talked about when Shohei Ohtani signed with the Dodgers. 700 million. Oh my god, but it's like for Ohtani, okay, I'm going to leave it at this. For Ohtani, it's worth it. For Soto, I think it's just a tad bit too much. I don't see a world where Shohei Ohtani should be making less than Juan Soto. Not saying that Juan Soto didn't deserve to have that 690, 680 price tag because he did. But I think the 765 that they closed on, I have a problem with Shohei Ohtani making less, especially if Shohei Ohtani pitches next year and pitches continuously into his career. That's where I'm going to have a problem with him making more. But like I said, that was the price tag. That's what you needed to go to get him, and that's the way that baseball is going to go. If you want a player, you got to pay the price.
Yeah, don't buy that what Jeff Passan said yesterday because he said um, he believes that Juan Soto thinks that the Mets future is brighter than the Yankee future. That's a load of crap. I can tell you that right now. He got the most money from the Mets. He's going to the Mets. So when
That's
you hear Juan Soto be asked, because he's going to get asked this question a couple of days from now, was it all about the money when you joined the Mets? He's going to say all the right PR stuff. No, it was, I believe in the future. I'm good friends with, Francisco Lindor. Nonsense.
yeah,
You got offered $756 million. That's why you're a Met right now.
exactly.
So whatever he says about, yeah, I believe in the future, he couldn't tell you the top 10 prospects in that farm system right now. Couldn't tell you. Could not. So, I understand Met fans are happy right now and they deserve to be, but remember, when he puts on that uniform every night, just remember how much he's making.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why he's
So,
there.
yeah, exactly. So, um, we'll move on here because now Kyle's ready to, punch the computer screen. Um, there were other moves, and we'll be quick here because geez, we're already going on almost 40 minutes. Um, there were other moves that were made. I think the biggest one was Willie Adames, 7 for 182. You had Blake Trinan in there. I'm trying to think. You had a weird Michael Conforto one last night before the Soto stuff that kind of worries me a little bit. Um, you had Gary Sanchez go from another back to the AL East. Shane
Tyler
Bieber
O'Neill.
signed. Tyler O'Neill, Shane Bieber signed. Clay Holmes is apparently going to be a starter now. Um, I don't know. Aroldis Chapman. I think we didn't touch. I think Aroldis Chapman is going to the Red Sox. Um,
That's just funny.
Higgy is a Ranger. Yeah. Um, I guess I'll. I don't. I guess I'll just start off here. I love what the Dodgers did, bringing back Blake Trinan. You had to do that. I don't understand the Michael Conforto stuff whatsoever. It
Mm.
concerns me, and I know the report last night was, well, the Dodgers are still interested in bringing back Teoscar Hernandez, which is good. But why are we? What's the deal with Michael Conforto here? I understand why they want him to be kind of that Jason Hayward kind of role, what he was last year before he got traded, kind of platoon with Pages in the outfield, and um, you know, I'm nervous with Teoscar Hernandez.
Yeah.
Last week it seemed like it was almost a done deal. It was basically at the 1 yard line. Now it's like, hey, hang on, there's a little bit of a bridge here. I'm concerned. I really am. He's been loved he's been such a lovable guy, and Dodger fans have fallen in love with him ever since he got here from day one. And he performed and he helped us win a championship, which helps a lot. I'm gonna stay by this. To me, you have to bring him back. You have to. Listen, if the Dodgers are concerned about a couple extra $1 million, look around for a second. Look at what you're going to be paying Shohei Ohtani until he's freaking 75 years old. Just look at that. Like, can we look around for a second and just say, hey, what's a couple extra million for Teoscar gonna mean? I know he's 32, and I know he's like an average 260, 265 hitter, but dude was clutch, man, and he's been like that his whole career. A
Yep.
low average with 25 to 30 home runs a year. Um,
With that clutch gene, man.
exactly.
He's got it.
Right, exactly. And we need that. And I hope the Dodgers don't lose on that. But um, out of all these moves, are there ones that you're maybe kind of intrigued you the most? I like the Willie Adamas one. I do.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll just give my real quick recap. I'm with you on the Michael Conforto move. That kind of feels like a backup option. It's like, damn, okay, things are getting a little shaky with Teoscar. We kind of need something just to fall back on, just in case. And I feel like that's what Michael Conforto was. I'm also going to add Teoscar Hernandez from an outsider's view. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he felt like he developed a heart and soul of
Yep.
the Dodgers team. Like, yeah, you have Shohei, you have Mookie, you have Freddie, the big guys. And I'm not saying they're not heart and souls, but I just feel like Teoscar Hernandez in that dugout was over there hyping everybody up and was like, okay, you know what? Fuck this. I'm a Dodger. That kind of thing. So I think he has that too, which I think is important to the Dodgers. Like chemistry is sometimes more important than player talent, and I feel like Teoscar Hernandez has that. Um, Willie Adamas, love it. I think that's a perfect move for the Giants. I think Willie Adamas has been a underrated player for quite some time now. Um, yeah, I mean, great move. I love the contract too. I think that plays in the Giants' favor. Um, yeah, Buster Posey, great job, man. Um, Now to answer your question, the one that intrigues me, I'm going to go back to the Mets, man. Clay Holmes. Wow. That one intrigues me a lot because as a reliever, yeah, sure, but if
You
you're
better
trying
hope he works out as a starter.
to, man, and another thing that worries me for the Mets is that your plan, like to have him actually in, like, are you banking on Clay Holmes working out as a starter to be able to pass up on these other guys? That's what concerns me for the Mets. Because trust me, I've seen what Clay Holmes can do out of the bullpen. He's really good when he's right, but damn, is he's so bad when he's not on. And in the last year and a half ish with the Yankees, it's been a lot of touch and go with him. And like, yes, he has electric stuff and he has that electric sinker that he uses, but batters catch on to it, man. And I called him cardiac Clay all last year. And dude, there was times where he could barely get out of a single inning. And you mean to tell me that they're trying to convert him into a starter? And if I'm not mistaken here, he has never been a starter before. Even with Pittsburgh, I think he's always been a reliever. I think he's come up through the minors as a starter, but then he was converted to a reliever. And that was one of those moves. I remember that trade. They traded Hoy Park for him and Diego Castillo, which were two extremely low-ended prospects. They really didn't. They had no place on the Yankees, and it seemed like Brian Cashman was dumpster diving again, and he found a gem in there with Clay Holmes. And the way that I see it is, I feel like the Yankees sucked everything they could out of him. Any bit of closer role, high end reliever. Um, so that's the one that definitely intrigues me the most, especially if they are banking on him as being a starter and they're like, oh, we got Clay Holmes to take up that fifth spot in the rotation. We don't need this guy. And that's, it also takes me back to Frankie Montas too. That's not a guarantee to me. I don't, and you lost out on Luis Severino, who was arguably your second best starter, if not arguably the best starter on your team at some points of last year. And you're still losing out on Sean Manaea, in my mind at least. I don't see him coming back. Um, so, and Kodai Senga, he's a question mark too. So obviously it's more Mets talk, but yeah, no, I think Clay Holmes is the one that intrigued me the most.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I was really hoping that we would have like a big signing during this period, but I don't think that's gonna happen during this podcast episode. Um, I think that's about it with the news. I think we kind of briefly touched on everything. I know this is a Mets Juan Soto heavy episode, but
Oh yeah,
do you feel better now? You got everything off your chest?
I do, man. I do. Oh, Alex Cobb also went to the Tigers. There's not much on
Yeah.
that to me. Good move. It adds a veteran piece in the rotation and the young staff, so good for them. But but yeah, no, I feel better. I'm trying to partially manifest that plan to go into effect. So we'll see where it goes. But yeah, I mean, it closes the chapter. Obviously it sucks. I love to see him back, but I feel a whole lot better than what I thought I would. Maybe it's because I had time to prepare myself. There's a reason why I didn't go heavy on the Juan Soto merch, as you can see. Um, so yeah, it's good for him, good for the Mets. That's what I have.
Yeah. Um, I think that's gonna do it for episode 106.
I think so.
I'm never gonna get that out of my head. Kyle said "fuck Soto" today. I'm
I
never
did.
gonna forget that. I'm never gonna forget that.
I got to
You
play into
hope
the toxic Yankee fan a
you
little.
do. I don't blame you. Like, listen, you're very good of holding back and being like the you know not the dumb Yankee fan. You're very smart. You're realistic. So I appreciate that when that comes out of you a little bit
Of course,
because I don't think we see that enough.
I I I I do agree with you. I also think that plays into the fact of how young I am. I'm 24. I didn't get to see the 90s dynasties. I didn't get to see George Steinbrenner in full effect. There's only been one championship under my lifetime. Well, two, but I was extremely young when they beat the Mets in the Subway Series. I wanted to put that in there too. But yeah, I've only seen one World Series. So I think a lot of it, and to like you and I both understand how today's game is. It's not how it used to be. So yeah, but every once in a while I got to play into it, and I'll say it again. Fuck Soto, and I'm gonna be in the bleachers next.
Oh wow!
Oh yeah,
Oh
Altuve looks like
damn!
Altuve looks like a saint now.
Oh wow! Okay, that's a quote. That is a quote. Damn! Damn!
Had to get something in
You,
there.
you hope the Mets finish 20 games under 500 too, don't you? Have missed the
Yeah,
postseason.
I do. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, usually I'm pretty good of holding back on the rivalry too. That I will give myself. I have never come on here publicly and like bash the Mets. Maybe for some of the moves that they made, but I never I like to see the Mets doing well because they're from New York. I want to see both of these teams I want to see both of these teams do well and the city to thrive. I love New York as a city and I love the Yankees. But also too, that city is just that much more exciting during baseball season when both the Mets and the Yankees are doing good. But next year, yeah, I hope I fucking dude, fifth place, bottom of the barrel. I'm out for the Mets jugular next year.
You got to be at Yankee Stadium next year for
Yeah,
that series.
I'm that yes, 100%. I usually because my mom's a Mets fan, so usually her and I go up to the stadium for the Subway Series, and I'm gonna see if I can make it to a point to get up there next year. I want to. I'm gonna play into that. I'm gonna be holding
I
the
hope your
sign that
mom's in a Soto jersey or something.
says, "Yeah, I'll let her have her fun."
All right, winter meetings going on. I should have mentioned that from the beginning, but um, that's gonna do it for episode 106.
Yes, I have a feeling we're gonna have a whole lot more to talk about next week too.
Yeah, Teoscar Hernandez, please come back, get it done. Let's not waste time. Hopefully, we can talk about that next week. We'll
We'll
see
see.
you. We'll see you a week from today. Adios.